but it is nothing but the combination of internet, digital media, and human connection. We humans always strived to connect with each other even before Facebook existed, right? We celebrate our birthdays. You don't have to create anything new, strive for novelty, because usually when we do that, I mean, it sometimes we miss the fundamental element of innovation, and not just about how we operate. Even if you notice in the nature, even the nature creates something new out of the existing system. Intersectional curiosity helps you question your own beliefs, perceptions, always foundational principles as to how the entire universe operates. And as I've told you, a business is a subset of what's happening in the whole universe. Big investment, right? Even writing a book, I use the same systematic investment plan. I write just 500, 700, 800 words every single day.
Hi, Rajesh. Welcome to the 10x Marketer podcast. I'm excited to hear about your new book, Vacuum Principles. And why don't you quickly introduce yourself and then let's get started?
Yeah, hi Gadari. First of all, thank you so much for having me here in your podcast. Last time we met, I believe one and a half years back for a different episode on a different topic on branding. So today I'm quite excited to join hands with you back on this new podcast about my new book, The Vacuum Principle. My name is Rajesh Srinivasan. I'm a marketing strategy consultant. Um, I'm a marketing and even business strategy consultant, author, and speaker. I primarily work with managing directors, CEOs, and entrepreneurs in devising their business model, studying their strategy aspects of their business. Then, along with that, I also do marketing, brand, and innovation strategy. Primarily, the goal is to have an outside view of their business. I also advise few companies have an outside view of their business, bring in the customer viewpoint as an outsider, and at the same time help them set up their evaluate their strategy, overall business strategy, then their marketing, brand, media. So this is what I do day in and day out. Now I've started writing full fledged. I've launched my fourth book. It's called Vacuum Principle. My third book, Mindful Marketing, has become a Amazon bestseller. It's doing really well. So I'm in a writing spree these days. I'm even after launching this book, I've allocated some time to launch other books also. I'm also working on my next book. So I live in Chennai along with my wife and my son. So I'm also a mindfulness practitioner. I enjoy nature, love to spend more time with nature. So this is what I do at a personal level. And I also read a lot. I spend a lot of time in reading, contemplating, and talking to industry folks like you, sharing my knowledge and learning from them also. So this is what helps me to stay abreast in the industry. Yeah, these days I'm also taking a lot of breaks just to see the big picture of life. So all is well. Things are going on well.
Awesome. And I'm really excited to know about the new book. And I'm really inspired by the term vacuum principle. Is this something that just happened in the moment, or you were thinking about it and then you contemplated on it and finally you came up with the title?
Yeah. Uh, I'll just quickly take some time to explain this metaphor of the vacuum
Mm-hmm.
principle, how I've connected this with innovation, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be very specific, how to find market gaps and
Mm-hmm.
create category defining companies. So,
Mm-hmm.
in my experience, the concept of vacuum principle emerged from a fundamental observation about how uh, systems naturally evolve. When I say systems, I talk about all the universal systems, right? So much like water, if you pour some water, it will find its way through some places where it can go and rest. You would have noticed, right? The
Yep.
path of least resistance. So also,
Yep.
if you imagine a cyclone, what drives its incredible power is a vacuum, right? Before a cyclone hits a space, there will be a vacuum in that space, an
Mm-hmm.
empty space that pulls everything around it inward. So that's the essence of a cyclone, right?
Yep.
With a irresistible force. That's why we see houses flying because of the air pressure. So
Yep.
I've observed markets also work exactly like this. And I call this as market vacuums, right? It's like an invisible gravitational force. So to be specific, every unmet need in a market, every inefficiency which we see in an industry or in a product or service creates a natural space, empty space or vacuum in a market. That's what I mean by the vacuum principle. It's an empty space, right, in an ecosystem that silently calls out to be addressed, right? Like in nature, they say uh, nature abhors vacuum, right? It wants to
Yep.
fill it, desperately fill it. So during my years of consulting, analyzing various companies, I have noticed this pattern. All major innovations, right? It addressed a gap in the market, a vacuum, right? If you are not going to fill it, someone else is going to fill it. And if no one else fills it, we as consumers in the market create our own workarounds. It might be inefficient.
Yep.
Take, for example, Uber. Before Uber, there were a lot of cab aggregators. We made a note of those phone numbers, call them, fix the cab individually, and then pay them separately. They create bills. So all those workarounds were there. It was inefficient, right? So Uber, they have not invented anything new. They observed this gap in the market and the inefficiency which was already there in that market. So what they did was they just filled that vacuum, filled that existing vacuum in the marketplace. So that's what I mean by the vacuum principle. So the moment I understood this idea, even in my own consulting and advisory sessions, I found that some of the good companies usually solve a specific unmet need in the market. When it comes to unmet needs and inefficiencies, if we open up and see the whole market, there are a lot of them available. So that's the essence. And in this book, I've covered 5 types of market vacuums. And I've also created mental models and frameworks on how you can spot those market gaps, how you can engineer a business model around it, how to time it, when to enter that market. So these are the things that I've covered. And most importantly, I've covered 7 mental models of innovators. So if you want to innovate, you can use those 7 mental models, wear those hats, and it will help you to find market gaps effectively. So that's the essence of the book.
Understood. So, the next important thing that you talked about is that spotting a vacuum is much more powerful than creating something new. So, my understanding is creating something new and filling the vacuum is by and large the same thing, because you can only create something new when it does not exist, and that's equal to having a vacuum. But how is it different from your point of view, and why is it more powerful filling up the vacuum than creating something entirely different or new?
See, at a structural level, I mean, if at the level of the universe, right, nothing is new, right? Everything already exists. We are just making a combination of various things, and we call it as innovation. And let's take a breakthrough innovation, right? The innovation of aeroplane, right?
Hmm.
Flight was a breakthrough innovation,
Yep.
right? When Wright brothers came up with this idea and they had this first flying machine, it was considered as a breakthrough innovation. But still, if you notice, humans wanted to move from one place to another place. And what we did was we understood birds were doing it effectively. So we understood the flying mechanism of birds and emulated that in a mission and created a flying mission, which we call an aeroplane, right? It's exactly like a bird's flying system. So that's one way of looking at it. Even ships, right? It's a mechanism of how fishes navigate in the sea, right? These are breakthrough innovations, but we have taken this idea from extremely distant source. So it looks like really a breakthrough innovation. But in an essence, we have not created something new. We took up the mechanics which was already there and solved the pain point of humans, right? Traveling from one place to another.
Yep.
Even if you notice, let's say social media, Facebook, when it came out, we thought it was a breakthrough innovation, but it is nothing but the combination of digital, internet, digital media, and human connection. We humans always strived to connect with each other even before Facebook existed, right? We celebrate our birthdays. We always wanted to connect with each other at a friendly level. So all those things were human needs, which was already there. What Facebook did was this internet technology was evolving, so they used that and they helped us to connect with even with strangers effectively. So that's
Yep.
what I mean. If you want, if you are an innovator, most of the times we get stuck uh, in a place where we strive to find some novel ideas which doesn't even exist, right? So, but if you have this perspective of solving something which is already there, but it's not organized in a specific way, your mind works so freely, right? There is nothing. I mean, this might be a hit for our ego, but there is nothing new, and I believe there is nothing literally new except the creation that universe did thus, right? Whatever we create as a humans business is something just a combination of what's happening. Even iPhone, right? It's Steve, we call Steve Jobs as an innovator. Yes, definitely he's an innovator, but his genius lies in combining three, four tech devices and come out with the iPhone. It's nothing but he even explains it in his keynote, right? During the iPhone launch. A phone, a camera, a music player, and a computer. He repeatedly says this before launching the iPhone. A phone, a camera, a music player, a computer. All these things, four things were prevalent already, right? A phone, BlackBerry was already solving this. Camera was already there. It's the evolution stage. Digital cameras were evolving. Music player, even Apple already introduced iPods, right? On the other hand, we were working on computer to solve our problems. So what Steve Jobs did in iPhone is he just combined all these three, four devices and it looked so new because he had this capacity to see multiple things and it's like a mental stress, right? It's not straightforward, but it's so visible, right? If you remove all the layers in your mind and just see what people are doing, it's so visible. We were trying to solve a problem. So that's what I mean when I say that you don't have to create anything new. Strive for novelty because usually when we do that, uh, I mean, sometimes we miss the fundamental element of innovation and not just about how we operate. Even if you notice in the nature, even the nature creates something new out of the existing systems, right? Out of the existing systems, there is nothing new that nature creates, right? I mean, now when we notice the sky, the cloud, after the cloud becomes like a rain, right? When the rain comes down to the earth, it becomes like a water flow. Then it becomes a river. Then river becomes a sea. Then what happens? The sea again becomes a cloud, right? It's like formation of different things, but essentially from the same thing. right? It takes different forms and shapes. So this may sound philosophical, but if we see things from a wider angle, it will be evident that everything is just combination, reorientation, and forms taking different shapes. That's what I mean when I say that don't strive to create something entirely new because everything is created out of what already exists.
Yeah, so start sporting vacuums, and that is the new you can create. Like you can
Yeah.
combine different opportunities that you have and then come up with something that is exceptionally look like new. Now let's talk about the five vacuums. And thank you so much for sending the signed copy of your book. I was going through it and I came across something like five different vacuums. So you talked about features, you talked about experience, you talked about price, access, and trust. So these are the five different vacuums that you introduced. Now, which one do you think entrepreneurs most commonly overlook, and what is the reason behind it? And if you have to go through each vacuum or practice sporting different kind of vacuums, how do you make that model or mind map so that you become efficient at it?
Okay, that's an interesting question. First of all, I will give you a quick overview of all those five vacuums. So, feature vacuums is nothing but like Apple is a feature-based company, right? They bring a lot of innovative new features in their phone, right? It's like solving people's basic need or problem, which is not solved already. That's what I call feature vacuum. You can find this in most of the industries. Second one is experience vacuums. When it is all about solving an emotional need, the customer, right? Coffee was a commodity, and Starbucks created an emotional need around coffee by making it as an experience. So that's what I mean by experience. Third one is price vacuum, right? In any market, I see any market, like if you keep like a pyramid, you have a mass market where price is usually very, very low, but caters to the mass market. Then the mid layer of the market, mid segment, and then premium and luxury. You can always find gaps in any market. This is how the market is structured, right? Based on customer value creation and the gaps in the market. That's what I mean by price vacuums. Fourth one is the access vacuum, right? Finding distribution, choosing unique distribution models, channels for the go-to market, right? Even e-commerce is an innovation on access vacuums. And then the fifth one is the trust vacuums. Trust is nothing but in every industry almost we can see that there is some level of trust quotient missing, uh, particularly in industries like healthcare. We always see when we as consumers or patients go to hospitals, talk to people, we always feel something underlying the healthcare which is prevailing around it. You could always sense some tension, right?
Yep.
In terms of trust, not just in healthcare. Even Amazon, when they tried to launch uh, the e-commerce platform, they faced this trust deficit. Earlier, if you notice, you and me, even when Flipkart was launched in India, most of us didn't order through online payment. We chose cash on delivery, right? Because we have not trusted. While
Sure.
ordering, we have not paid. Now that has evolved. How it has evolved because of reviews. A lot of people have started using it. So trust mechanism is also important. And when you engineer a market vacuum, you need to keep this in mind. So when I say you can find a market gap through these five vacuums, I don't see this as a separate ones, right? For example, you could be a real estate company who offer an experience to customers than a normal product feature. At the same time, trust is also very, very important when you make any real estate transaction, particularly when you do any high-end transaction, trust becomes a major role. So I don't see these things that are different ways to enter into the market. Sometimes you can club all those five market gaps and create a unique model. And answering your question, a specific question about which vacuum I do see can be used at this point of time primarily. My favorite one is the experience vacuum, right? Uh, I mean, I believe that at this point of time, collectively, most of the products or services are becoming commoditized. We are too enamored with technology and we are trying to automate everything, right? Even if you take banks, it looks like they don't want to talk to us as humans, right?
Yep.
In the name of convenience, we are creating a distance between humans and companies. That's what I see. You do everything online, digital. In a way, it's good, right? It's solving our inconvenience. Earlier, we have to drop into the bank branches for each and every small thing. Now we can do everything online. But uh, the flip side of it is we as humans are slowly moving away from interacting with other humans in the companies, right? This creates naturally humans want to connect with other humans. So if you do too much of technology and automation, I don't see that as a competitive advantage for a company. At this point of time, I believe that scarcity isn't genuine human connection. Any company, service companies for that matter, right? Even if you run an FMCG company, the product is just a commodity, right? And if you add a layer of experience, people want to uh, definitely want to go for it because I believe I sense some kind of discomfort everywhere in the sense that we just do a lot of online posts, do get some likes, connections. All those are superficial connections. That's what I believe.
Yep.
Even automation, all those things. Yes, it solves the convenience problem, and yes, yes, it answers your efficiency question. For example, if you are a banker, you would always don't want to open new branches because from efficiency standpoint it increases your labor cost, real estate cost. So all these things you reduce your physical branches and bring in more automation digital thing in order to reduce the cost.
Mm-hmm.
But efficiency, extreme efficiency also has its own cost, right? We miss
Yep.
human connection. That's the
True.
yin and yang of what's happening. So I believe experience is very, very important. Human experience, human connection. And most of the brands these days, which we consider even uh, boutique restaurants or any even small businesses or even small level healthcare providers or doctors, the reason why they do well is because they have not automated most of their systems. There are humans available. And so I believe even if you grow big, even if you scale, you need to have that kind of human quotient, human element in your business. So I believe that's the scarcity we have now. And that
Yep.
can become a competitive advantage.
Yes, and I think most people are moving in the opposite direction of what we are talking about. They want to reduce the human as much as you can, and maybe still want to survive. So, good luck to them. Now, the next part of our discussion, which is, of course, let's talk about any recent example where you think any company applied the principle of vacuum and significantly this helped them change their trajectory and or maybe come up with something really great in market.
Okay. So I came across this restaurant called Musk Restaurant. It's one of it's in India. It's in Mumbai. It's listed as one of the world's famous restaurants. It's Masque, Musk Restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I talked about experience, it is a restaurant which I saw addresses certain critical element which we talk about in the vacuum principle. One is their future is nothing but it's an ingredient based restaurant, right? They don't have a standard menu in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say ingredient based restaurant, they watch out the seasonality, what's available at that particular season. They go and source it they bring those maybe vegetables or any unique mushrooms which are available in certain places, and they create a menu out of it. So usually, how do we find restaurants? Standard menu, right? So
Yep.
this restaurant charges has a 10 course menu, and they charge roughly about 5,200 per meal, and they serve only 40 customers in a day, right? And they are doing extremely well, remarkably well, highly talked about, has heavy word of mouth. The only thing which they are addressing, as we discussed, is on one hand, if you're a restaurator, if you're a restaurant owner, we tend to scale, right? Uh, and this restaurant has not scaled. It's like highly integrated restaurant, right? So they focus on experience. They focus on unique product feature. Pricing also, they create a unique value for their customers. And they have only one restaurant. Even that restaurant, one restaurant, they do a business of around 20, 22 crore, a rough figure every year, right? So this is what I mean, the other side of scale, right? The side of scale, which is nothing but focusing on experience, creating your own feature, product feature, and it creates a natural trust in them, right? You just need to serve 40 customers every day. In that case, you can take more care of them.
Yep.
And I've learned that their founder, Pratik, I believe their name, he's a passionate. They see the restaurant business like a craftsmanship, right? So that's a vacuum, that's a gap. In any business, you can do it. In whatever business, you could be doing a B2B business also, consulting business also. And there are two lens which we can bear: doing things at scale, usually, right? Doing
Mm-hmm.
things at scale and doing things like a craftsmanship. Here, you will not be able to scale. But when I talk about craftsmanship, doing something like a premium and luxury, I definitely don't rule out something which operates at the other end. It doesn't mean that I don't like it. It's just a business model.
Yep.
All I mean to say is you just need to be extremely clear on this aspect. Am I going to see my business like a craftsmanship, like a premium or luxury experience? Then whatever you do, you orient towards this. Or if you see this, I'm going to operate at a scale. Here also you may find a lot of vacuums, gaps
Yep.
in the market. You align this side orientally. The the dangerous side to be in is getting confused and get mixed up in the middle. And usually we might use words like I am an experience, or I see my business as a craftsmanship, but you scale like a mass marketer, right? So uh, this is the bad place to be in, the center where you don't take any strong positioning. So I consider this restaurant Musk as a good example of a business which doesn't want to scale and see their business from purely from an experience standpoint.
Understood. Now let's talk about something that you already talked about in a way, but I would like to ask that question. And if you have something like a checklist which you can share, will be great. Like if you're advising, let's say you're advising me or any first time founder, how do you actually guide them to come up with an understanding of how to identify the vacuums that are worth solving? And if it is worth solving, then how do you decide that it's worth solving? And if it is worth solving for you, then what is the framework for building a solution to fill that gap?
Yeah. Uh, I am a big fan of this idea of product market fit. So
Mm-hmm.
any startup, even when I advise, I wear this lens of product market fit. I am a strong evangelist of that idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unless you achieve that product market fit, there's no point in scaling or anything you can do worthwhile in a startup, right? But product market fit again is a very, very generic concept, right? You have a product on one side and market, and here you can use uh, these five vacuums. Particularly, you can use the feature vacuum or an experience vacuum, um, or price vacuum. in finding a gap in the market. So let's take some examples, right? Let's say you are a B2B company. You're a founder of a B2B company, and you are in a very early stage, wants to find a gap, wants to find a crack, get into a market, right? So here, if you study, let's take SaaS market, right? You can be a feature driven company, right? I'll give you some examples. Zoom is a one feature company, right?
Yep.
It's one feature company. It solves a global problem, right? It doesn't do a lot of things, just video conferencing, right? Everything around it. So you could even find a global problem and have only one or two features which solves that problem. It means your scale becomes very, very easy. So this is one extreme side of using the vacuum principle. If you see from this angle, as long as a business grows, business exists, there will always be a problem in the business. You can take that one single problem and create a feature around it and launch a global business. I'm just simplifying it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do a lot of research around that. So second one is you could be even be an experienced company in the sense that uh, like a Salesforce, right? Salesforce solves an enterprise related problem. It's not a mass market company, right? Even the pricing is also huge compared to other players. In a way, I mean, when I use the word experience company, I mean to say they solve some specific problems with regards to sales, CRM, and your business growth, and they have very intimate relationship with the customers, right? It's not a mass market company.
Yep.
Uh, just because even the cost is huge, their implementation is huge. They cannot do something which we use as product-led growth, right? They need to be an experience-based company. So in B2B and even in consulting, for example, in my consulting and advisory work, I don't want to scale at all, right? Because I am a one-man firm, and I want to serve customers, high-end premium customers, because I'm left with no other option than to do it. I'm not running a consulting company, right? It's like a white glove service I give to customers. So that's my way of operating things. Even I bring in craftsmanship in the work I do, right? I write books. I don't want to see myself as a mass marketer, right? I do research. I bring some kind of craftsmanship and wear this hat of a magician in my work. So that's the differentiator I bring. So, as a founder, my advice would be to see this, right? Take Be a one feature company or be a experience based company, or even you could choose one specific industry and solve a problem. You have ample opportunities, right? Solve a problem of a healthcare company, a hospital, take up some specific challenges. And how do you find this market gap is I've created a model in the book. I've called this as the archaeology of customer frustration. So in a chapter, I've used this framework, right? You wear the hat of an anthropologist, right, as a founder. I don't, I mean, as a business people, what we do usually is we wear the hat of a business and try to solve a business problem unconsciously. What we need to do is we need to understand that we are solving a customer problem. So eventually our business problem solves on its own. That's the understanding, right?
Yep.
But it's so unconscious that we tend to focus on sales, revenues, and all those lagging indicators. It's a human mindset. I do it if I were a founder of a company. But consciously bringing back, uh, taking that mindset back into um, the customer problem focused mindset. So what you can do is you can even visibly see how people are managing their own problems in their workplace, right? It's very, very simple way of interacting with customers. I call this as layer one. You need to excavate the reason why I call this as the archaeology of customer frustration is you as an innovator, as a founder, just see this, right? You are excavating the market, the pain points and the problem, something that is so visible. And if you remove the layers, you see the deepest layer of the problems, right? For example, before these delivery companies came out, right, Zomato or Swiggy, we managed the deliveries on our own, right? We created our own workarounds,
Yep.
and we managed our own deliveries, right? And founders of Swiggy and Zomato, they clearly identified the gap. It's like a one feature, right? One simple feature of delivering food to your home. See, it's a mass market problem they are solving. They have solved. And the second layer of excavating the market, like an archaeologist, is you see the time tax. When I say time tax, what do I mean by that is as customers, we often spend significant amount of time managing some workarounds in our life, right? I mean, even Zepto has understood this problem, right? For a busy working professional, if we want to buy something, we have to step out of the home, go to the nearest Kirana shop and buy something. So they understood this problem. We already did some workaround. Sometimes we call the nearest Kirana shop owner and they bring it to our home. It may take some time. We will again jot it down in some place as to what we need to buy whenever we want to go out. So a lot of workarounds, right? You have
Yep.
created. So as a founder, or as a person who is trying to solve a problem, even in B2B, we just need to wear this hat of an archaeologist and see the existing workarounds. Without technology, why how people are trying to solve the problem. Even with technology, there could be some inefficiencies in the technology which they are using, right? Even the existing technology solutions. So that's one. And the next layer, I call this as the knowledge burden. As customers, when some our problems are not solved, sometimes we have to develop an unofficial expertise to navigate all those challenges, right?
Yep.
So, for example, before this Kata book, there is an accounting software, right? All those small business owners, they manage their own problems. They need to be expert, right? Most of them were not even having that level of expertise, but they were managing it. They manage with their own expertise. That I call it as the knowledge burden. You can even see there. Is there a way to solve this knowledge burden, remove the cognitive load, ease that process? So another way of seeing this is what I call the layer four, right? Before LinkedIn, if we notice, if we go to a networking event, we collect cards, keep it, and sometimes we form some informal groups amongst our friends just to stay connected in the industry, right? It was very difficult, right? We formed our own small social networks and circles to manage this problem. You could simply go to a market and see what are some of the unofficial groups that are being formed to solve some specific problem. These days, it has become so easy, right? You can even go to a Facebook group, a LinkedIn group, and see if the groups, for what purpose these groups are formed. Is there a formal, systematic way they are solving the problem, right? If you see that, you can even create a specific solution for that one particular group. And I always believe that any small group, if you notice, if you want to scale it, if you see it at a global level, there will be sufficient number of people you can you can solve that problem for. I mean, the market sizing problem I'm talking about. So ideally, what I'm trying to tell you is, as a founder, it's better to wear the hat of an anthropologist, right? Observe the market. But this is a very generic statement. So that's why I've created some mental models in the book, which you can use to wear the hat of the anthropologist and ideally solve this problem, ideally solve this product market fit. Again, product market fit is one of the best framework, I think, which you can use as a founder. And
Yeah.
adding to
So
that, you can use all these five market vacuum principles.
let's combine to the vacuum principles and the cognitive framework. I think that becomes a formidable force in itself. I was coming to the cognitive frameworks, and since you already talked about it, why don't you quickly introduce the 7 cognitive frameworks and how do you really use them? Maybe take next 2 minutes to explain that if possible.
Yeah. Uh, the seven cognitive frameworks, I've distilled certain things. Number one, out of which I consider this as a main thing, right? This mental model of having intersectional curiosity. To put it simple, in a simple way, uh, having cross-domain experience, right? The biggest challenge for us as entrepreneurs, business leaders, or marketers is we see everything from a categories perspective, right? If you're a FMCG business owner or an entrepreneur or marketer, you see things from a FMCG angle, right? Uh, hotelier may see everything from a restaurant or service business angle. A car businessman or a car manufacturer sees everything from a car manufacturer angle. So that is an impediment for innovative thinking. The reason is consumers use or see all these products as a part and parcel of their life, right? We don't always think, let's take this mobile phone as an example, right? I use my mobile phone in different contexts, right? I use this to order, to connect with my family, with my friends, to use social media, even for my business purpose. So a lot of things come together when I use a mobile phone. Similarly, if you use a car, a lot of things come around it. So ideally, I created this mental model and I would keep this at the top. It's called intersectional curiosity. And when I studied Steve Jobs, he had this nature, right? During his young age, he was studying in Reed's College. There, he was fascinated by calligraphy, right? Fonts. Later, later, when he worked, wanted to launch Macintosh, he connected all those digital typefaces and interface design with those calligraphy design and brought in some unique fonts, Macintosh, if you must be knowing about it.
Yep.
So, as a businessman, I would always say this: never think that you are a businessman in the first place, right? We are humans. If we wear that hat of being a human being, and we can, when we were kids, we always had this idea of multi-dimensional, right? We were not rigid. So as we grew up, we became so rigid, right? So rigid in our point of view, in the way we see things. So intersectional curiosity helps you to break away, help you to, even if you're in any business. For example, if I'm a in consulting business, how can I bring this intersectional curiosity is to see consulting business in a different way, right? What I'm essentially doing, I'm bringing an insight to a company, right? What else I am doing? I'm not just advising